actually um, uh, triggering the word hunger. And this year, the theme is about leaving no one behind. I must say that I find this very interesting because I attended the summit, the FAO summit on Friday, and I got to understand. Can you please mute? Just try to mute. I got to understand what this really means in terms of leaving no one behind. This just trying to. Okay. So, like we said, the World Food Day is celebrated every 16th of October, and today is the 16th, and we are glad to be here. And they celebrate as we're celebrating with other 150 countries. And you also imagine people, depending on the locality or regions, people can have their own theme in terms of what they must focus on to celebrate this year. I'm just focusing on what the FAO, the UN, actually the thing for this year. And it's all about raising awareness, issues around poverty and hunger. And like I said, it's led by the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization. And when we talk about leaving no one behind, we really mean the world can easily be distracted by other things that are happening. We have conflict, we have pandemics, we have climate change, we have rising inflation, rising prices in food, and we have international tension. Some even say that we might go into World War III, So we can easily get distracted, focusing on these big issues or seemingly big issues and forget about the most vulnerable. So this year's theme is about not forgetting the most vulnerable, leaving no one behind and carry everyone along with us, especially when it comes to access to not only food, but good, nutritious food. So I must say that we are moving in the right direction when it comes to development. The more people are prosperous in the world we have today because of economic growth, we have technological advancement, and people will argue that if you look at the percentage of people that were hungry like 50 years ago, it was actually it was higher than the percentage now, even though we have more people that are hungry now, if you consider the proportion. So we are moving forward in terms of advanced people are, more jobs and more economic advancement, more development. However, there are people also that are very, very poor, that are pushed into, poverty states, below the economic line in order for them to actually afford good and nutritious food. So we despite our development and our we're talking about 4IR. We're in a world where cars can drive themselves, machine can even think for themselves, but we have a lot of people that cannot feed themselves. This is the world of the scenario of two worlds where we have, we are advanced, and some people don't even think about food. They don't think that people are hungry in the world. While we have some, on the other hand, where some actually, they don't know when their next meal will come from. So this is a very, very big issue. We're in a world where, our governments and people even are pushing for wars. We have money for war, but we cannot even feed the poor, and the most vulnerable. We're talking about 850 million people thereabouts hungry in the world. And we have the richest man on earth that can actually snap his finger. And, if you think it's a simple problem, it can actually afford to, to say, they are hungry, buy food for them, or let's do something, and then we can fix it. But it's more complex than that. we live in a world where, despite the population is growing and it's projected to be 8 billion, some people say 9 billion by 2050. Currently, we have almost 1 billion empty plates. And when I say empty plate, I'm talking about people that are hungry. About 10% of the world population is hungry. And that's a very big issue. So our reality here is, I'm hungry. That's our reality. We have abundance. We have, the countries are becoming wealthier. People are becoming, economic status are growing. We have new technology. People are living longer. At the same time, we have more people that are hungry in the world. So when we think about it, we have 1 out of 9 people, hungry in the world, and it's just not acceptable. The executive director of the World Food Program said on Friday that we are now in a situation whereby they are taking food, from hungry children to feed us, to save starving children, because starvation is on the other side of hunger. Is on the extreme, because now it's a condition, medical condition, where you actually deficient of nutrition and vital nutrients for your growth and also function. So they are at the stage, World Food Program at the stage where you see they're taking from the hungry, to feed. They're actually basically stealing from the hungry to feed us. So this how serious this can be, and this has actually got to. And the reality here is, we're talking about each day 25,000 people, including more than 10, die from hunger and related causes. I took this last year, so the numbers may have changed. So and in the world where inflation is going high, the food is becoming unaffordable. More people are getting hungry in the world. So I took the stat just about 3 p.m. my time. That was two hours ago, thereabout. Yeah. So when we talk about hunger, it's quite a very interesting topic, because we're talking about this year alone, 7 million people who have died of hunger. I took it from a stat. And this number, I put the date there because it's increasing by the minute. The number is increasing by the minute. On the other side, we have, a lot of people, 877 million people that are obese, number of obese people that are obese, eating too much, getting more calorie than eating more calorie that they can, that they require. But it's not only about just eating; it's not eating the right food, because that's why they are obese. And and on the other side, we're talking about hunger, obesity, and all that. We are losing, just if we go back to the website now, this may have actually increased to maybe 2 million now. Tons of food are lost or wasted. So this is unacceptable. This is just, incredible that you can be talking about hungry people, a lot of people dying of hunger, and at the same time, you're talking about how much we actually waste, we throw away. So this is quite an interest. And if you look, this data I took from the EPA, the United Environmental Protection Agency. If you go and check the landfill, you will see that food actually is the most. Let me just get my pointer. You can see food constitutes the highest proportion of things that you will find in the landfill. So instead of feeding the stomach of people, the hungry, we're actually feeding the landfill, and this is just incredible, because it's a massive drain of resources, because it's not just about the food, it's about the energy, it's about the other things that's and water and other things that actually go into into growing the food. But the question is, we produce enough food to actually feed 10 billion people. So why does hunger still exist? I'm saying this because, wait a minute, we're talking about hungry people in the world, but it's not as a result of production. We actually produce enough to feed the world. We have enough food to feed the world. The issue here is about the access to the food that we produce. The access to the food that we produce is either some people cannot buy, they cannot afford it as a result of the price. Is either the food cannot actually get to them as a result of conflict or crisis or war, or it's either they just don't have access, one way or the other to the food that is produced, because we don't have a food system that enables donation, efficient donation, or that enable diversification of food or reallocation of food to the most vulnerable. I do engage on social media, LinkedIn. I know Dr. Shyam also is very efficient when it comes to being on social media. And one time, I think this was last year, I asked my audience, how many people can we feed if we do not, waste food? And, about 62% of people that out of over 1,000 people that responded said 2 billion people. If we say we don't waste today, how many we can feed? 2 billion people. It's interesting, 30% said it's none of their business. They don't care. That is not, it's not their business, their problem. But if you look at it in the true sense of it, we have enough food to feed the world. In fact, what we waste can actually feed the number of people that are going hungry in the world. So this shows that the issue of world hunger is very, very complex. It's a very, very complex situation. And we have to start asking ourselves, why is this so? Why is this so? What can we do? Like I said, it's not only about the food that we waste, it's also about, if you look at these commodities, different commodities that we waste, it's also about, the impact on the climate, because we're talking about, these are actually focusing on the effect of climate change on food production, but almost 8% of greenhouse gas is actually contributed, is actually coming from waste. Basically, so we produce so much, we waste so much, and it's contributing to climate crisis, which will now affect the production. So we'll find ourselves at a stage of situation whereby we won't even be able to produce enough food for the world, So we don't want to find ourselves because that's the path we are going. Like I said, if you consider the greenhouse gas, if food loss and waste were a country, it will be the third biggest source of greenhouse gas emission. So this is a big problem. And so the question people are asking here, I'm going to wrap up so that to allow time for the next speaker. The question people are asking here is, world hunger is complex, but how can we end world hunger? We know it's complex. Is it solvable? Is it something we can solve? Is it something we can address, given that we have poverty, climate crisis, we have inflation in food prices, we have food wastage, we have wars and conflicts. Is it possible, to actually solve this problem? People are asking, 1 in 9 people, go hungry every day, but why? Because we produce so much, we produce so much to feed the world. Why are people going hungry? And we are asking that by 2050, the world population will be 9 billion. So the question is, if the world population is not 9 billion yet, we're losing so much, we have so much hungry people. How can we cope, given if you throw climate problem into the mix, that will actually eventually affect our yield, our productivity? Can we feed 9 billion by 2050? When it comes to food, people might think it's so easy because there are 3 ways you can access food. There are 3 ways if you are hungry, actually. The first one, maybe if you are not hungry or if you need food, the first one is to grow your food. So you see countries that are actually agricultural oriented, they grow their own food and they are able to export. The second one is to buy it. A lot of Middle East countries in the Middle East, they do this because the land is not favorable, the climate is not favorable, but they have money to buy their own food. They are the biggest, importers of food. They have money you can buy. The other one is to, receive more food donations, to have food donated to you. So these three can really, and you have systems around these three, in terms of how you grow and the value chain, supply chain, or they have the different supply chains. But something is critical here that we must see, whether you want to go these three routes, there are so many other factors that are actually contributing, to food, and in terms of food and nutrition security. And the answer is here in the Sustainable Development Goals. You can see that the food, any issue around food and nutrition is actually central to the other Sustainable Development Goals. And we can see those goals, the goals in green. If you can achieve these goals, then you can support nutrition. So we should look at the bigger picture and look at the goals that actually can enable food and nutrition security. And there are other goals that if you are able to fix food and nutrition issue, or the hunger issue, you will actually be able to fix some of the Sustainable Development Goals. So what I'm trying to say here is the problem of hunger of food and nutrition is actually a prerequisite. It's actually very central and very important to addressing the order or fulfilling the other Sustainable Development Goals. And this is a bigger picture. So in closing, so I just highlighted some of the issues that are actually pushing or that are interrelated to world hunger. The first one is poverty. We have about 85% farmers in the world produce 1/3 of our food. So 85% of produce in the world produce 1/3 of our food. But amongst these 85, they're actually subsistence. They are indeed the most vulnerable among us, especially in developing countries. They are the poorest among us. So if anything happens to their production system or happens in terms of lack of infrastructure or lack of good seed or lack of storage facility, they can actually be easily pushed to hunger. So it's quite interesting that in Africa and other regions, we have farmers. Nearly in every household you find a farmer, but they are the poorest among us. So poverty itself is a key element, and you cannot address the issue of hunger if you don't address the issue of poverty. So Sustainable Development Goals 1 and 2, they go hand in. In fact, they must be seen as one. So that's one thing. The other one is food shortage, shortages. We have examples of countries where farming families experience period of hunger season because they don't have the technology to actually keep the food for long, or they actually don't have money to access the food. So we have some regions where food shortages and their own is more like seasonal hunger. So this also one of the things that one can look into and see how we can intensify our activities in addressing some of the world hunger. The other one is war and conflict. We know the issue of Ukraine and Russia and how that has actually increased the even vegetable or grains and all other things. So like I said, we have so much money to wage war, to conquer the enemy, to actually even use food as an instrument, because they use food to subdue the enemy, the so-called enemy. So this one of the instruments, someone is raising their hand. This also one of the key areas that we can look into in terms of addressing the world hunger. We have crop failure when the infrastructure already compromised, due to war and destruction. So this is a key area. Of course, the fourth one, climate change, we all know. We have countries that are very stable in terms of, they're very stable, but very little or low rainfall or very too much rainfall can actually result in, crop failure. And when you have crop failure and you have farmers that are vulnerable, that are subsistence, they are pushed to poverty. They actually themselves cannot afford food. And of course, when you have crop failure, you would automatically have increase in prices, inflation in prices. And this can result in, of course, hunger, contributing to hunger in the world. And there are other issues like nutrition, poor nutrition, poor public policy, we have poor economic resilience and all that. I'm not going to bore you with that because we're going to listen to some specific examples. So in my group, we as researchers, what I focus on here is at UJ, University of Johannesburg, is to look into different ways we can protect, extend shelf life, protect quality, maintain quality, extend shelf life of commodities, agricultural commodities, especially the horticultural crops that are highly perishable. And how can we use technology to actually improve the supply of food to make them accessible to the most vulnerable, especially when it comes to food donation. This can also be, very, very useful. So what I do is linked to is directly linked to the Sustainable Development Goal 12 and in particular target 12.3. And this on its own is linked, if you look at the bigger picture I showed to you, linked to the other Sustainable Development Goals. So you can check, I gave my inaugural lecture last month, September. You can check out my, for more details, you can check out the video on YouTube. So in terms of final remarks, we know that we have wicked problems. Hunger is one of the wicked problems. We're talking about poverty, climate crisis, and they are all in the same basket, and they know no boundaries. So we must work together to solve this, and we need to learn and share experience, just like we are doing today. And it's not only about your village. We must have a regional mobility. We know that some of these problems are peculiar to certain regions, and we must customize our solution to the regions, to the problems in specific regions. We must know that one size cannot fit all. So we should look into, how we can address our problem in the most efficient and sustainable way. And of course, we need to keep talking about this. And that's one of the things we talked about, that we should actually raise more awareness and not make this a yearly event in a way to raise more awareness and make our voice heard. And of course, taking action is very important. Thank you very much. I think that was my last slide. Yes. Thank you very much. We have questions. Please feel free to ask. Dr. Tyrone, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much, Prof. That was a very beautiful presentation. Thank you very much. I think what we will probably do is take all the presentation and then we can take the questions thereafter.
Yes, I think that's
So I will just invite Dr. Shyam to make his own presentation, and then thereafter we can entertain the question and answers. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Tyrone. Thank you so much. And Fawad, that was really a very great presentation. In fact, you have covered most of my presentation topics. But yes, it's a good thing that all of us are on the same page speaking on hunger and poverty and how we are gonna end. I thank and appreciate everyone who joined here, especially the students of IIPMB, who are passionate about working towards the goal, and they are the young generation for these countries. Okay, I would like to present my presentation. And before that, there was some kind of miscommunication in terms of time. So there was a lot of people who registered are not able to be part of it. I'm sorry, 1 second. 1 second, I'm sorry. Able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, we can see a screen.
Great. Okay, we since it is World Food Day, it's very important we need to discuss about food. Previous speaker was speaking about food, hunger, how many people are dying. 1 out of 9 people dying with hunger every day. So in fact, we would like to speak, we have come up with a concept called one grain, save one producer. So basically, that word is like, one grain saved is a grain produced. So if you are protecting, you are saving one coin, it's a coin which is basically earned, in fact. So the concept is this, and welcome for World Food Days discussion, and the entire globe is celebrating on World Food Day on different topics. So what we are gonna speak about is how are we gonna mitigate this big giant of poverty and hunger, and what are the solutions we can look at. So based on that, with a pilot, would like to present one small methodology how we can look at mitigating this challenge. So so this photo I have taken it from Food and Agriculture Organization. If you look at the picture, it says how much food we are wasting, how much food it is going to waste on a daily basis. This picture actually speaks about more of fresh food, the fresh food which is being produced, which is being invested in a lot of time, a lot of water to produce it, a lot of input money which has gone it, and there's a time which has been spent on it, and human resource which has been used, technology which has been used, and yet the food which is being produced is going waste. This is a question today we need to question to each individual for ourselves. Food which is produced is going waste, which means a big question for us to think on. I will be giving a challenge by end of this presentation, what every single individual need to do to mitigate the bigger giant of poverty and hunger. So UN says couple of things. The previous speaker, my friend, he portrayed the figures very well. So if you look at the situation, present situation, after COVID, people who are dying, people who are acute of food insecurity, it's gonna double. It's already started being double. I was talking to a couple of my friends in different forums. People raised a question asking me this. I don't think there is a food problem. Only thing is I see there's prices going up a little high. So that was a very valid question, but they did not understand the importance of why the prices are going high. Because there is of less production, therefore the prices go high. There's a demand for food. So they forgot that logic. I was trying to explain them the importance. Today we speak about oil prices going high just because of there is a war. If you look at, because of the war for power, war for food, war for greed, actually made increasing the food market very disruptive. So what is happening is the food value chain is got disturbed because of war. So my friend was speaking on that. What is happening is the value chains, the supply chains, okay, the import, export, entire system has been collapsed or been disruptive, so that what happened is food crisis is hitting into different markets. Situations, scholars say that the situations will still be very, bad going ahead, because billions of people might suffer for this food. So I started working on a theory, the theory for change. If you look at very clearly, we have 4 C's, the big giant, I call it as 4C theory. Climate change is a big problem now. After climate change, we had COVID, which we just spoke about it. After COVID, we had double the hunger, the food crisis is gonna hit. Then other thing is the consumption. We consume food, but food is not nutritious. For example, if I'm gonna consume 1 egg which has got the nutrients in it, maybe after a couple of years, the same egg will not have the same protein levels or nutrition which 1 egg is supposed to provide. I might end up eating 2 eggs, which means the high consumption will be there, whereas the production will come down because of climate change, which will lead you to famine. So the logic behind that, we need to understand the roots. Climate change, less production, high consumption, which will lead to food crisis. I think, can we mute the people who are, yeah, thank you for that. So I would like to speak about a simple topic where the food loss is happening. A single grain saved is single grain produced. We see a lot of post-harvest losses which happen. Once the harvest comes, there's a huge loss of production which goes waste. How can we mitigate that challenge? And especially people who are more vulnerable for this post-harvest loss are smallholder farmers. It starts from the ground level. So in the ecosystem, it's our responsibility how we are going to mitigate that. If we look at, my screen is visible, right?
Yes, we can say challenges.
Yeah, 1 second. So how can we drive food wastage of the supply chain? What can we do about it? If you look out, I have come out with complex situations like reducing food waste requires efforts from every supply chain. It starts from the farm level and it will end at in every individual level. So people needs to have, every single person has a role to play in the supply chain. How can we stop wasting food? How can we work towards it? Because it affects every individual. If I am wasting food, I buy food for $2 and I eat food worth of $1, remaining $1 food, if I'm wasting it, I'm throwing it, it is costing me $2. At the same time, that food, somebody who is in need, it's not reaching him. Therefore, I am becoming a victim of losing my money, and somebody else is also becoming a victim where the food which I have wasted. So it needs to be addressed at every single level. Another big challenge which we see is the poor infrastructure markets. Infrastructure, institutions which are built, infrastructure which is not available for the smallholder farmers, or the communities where production is coming out, storage channels, which every institution, it could be international donors, it could be private players or the government or the public partnerships, which needs to look at infrastructure at every level. Normally what happens is infrastructure is built at retail level, or consumers, people will have at a family level, they have a fridge to store their food. But whereas the main source of food is coming from farm, where there is a very poor infrastructure. A big concern of the day. Adoption. Today we are speaking about technology. Technology has gone up in a big way. How can we make use of this technology to digitize the supply chains, the value chains, which will help us to mitigate food losses? How can we make use of it? So there is a challenge, open challenge, which is coming to the young generation who are into technology, who can look at. There are platforms which are already available, which will help us to an extent, but it's very important that we need to make use of those services and try to mitigate the challenge. I speak about this word, like, technology has come, a lot of farmers, institutions say that farmers don't use technology. Farmers will be passive and they will be passive for some more time. But you and I are educated and we need to take up the responsibility of educating them, helping them how we can use the present situations. Every year, wastage of fresh food is very, very high. In fact, I would like to share this. I directly work with few lakhs of farmers across India, millions of farmers across India. I see that production level, harvest level, there is a lot of spillover. And even after harvest level, there's a lot of food which is thrown out, fresh food especially, just because of there is no market value for it. Farmer will not make any value if he transports the product from his farm to the market. It is not financially viable for him, therefore he throws the product, which is basically we are wasting food. That food has value elsewhere. That's the reason I was speaking about technology. How can technology connect these dots where which can help to mitigate the food waste? People speak about a lot of things that, end of the day, every family wastes a lot of food. It's very important that we need to make aware every single person how to control the wastage of food. So when I was speaking about technology infrastructure, it needs to be in such a way that we need to think different. We need to act smart, and the scale should be really quick. So I was being part of a couple of forums where we discuss about the food waste and food loss and how we are gonna answer the food crisis. So it's very important that we started from our homes, individual homes. So we speak about sectors. Now I spoke about the retail sector. Retail sector, if you see it, it's only the tip of iceberg. The infrastructure they have, the food storage they can do, or how much they can hold the produce. But whereas the 70% of the iceberg is still undiscovered. Therefore, we need to anticipate marketplaces. How can we look at which product will go where and where the product is coming from? We need to create intellectual connections. It starts with farmers, farmer produce companies, distributors, retailers, and end users. All of us need to have awareness about how we can mitigate this. Again, how can we control demand and supply? It's basically we have built one project exclusively, and that project makes itself that it says that order to make. If someone needs a product, some food, they orders it, then all the product will be made, rather than we make the product and wait for someone to order it, which is basically a risk and a waste. So if you look at a lot of institutions, hotels these days, we call it as fast food. Fast food is almost like there might be raw material, but only based on your order, your product is made. So same thing which we need to come up with, at a farm level. Market need to ask for X product, therefore there's a guaranteed market for that particular product, which will have value and will not be wasted, which we need to think different. So my friend covered this actually very well. In fact, the food we are wasting, the food which we are wasting, if it was a country, it would be the biggest greenhouse gases emitted. So how much we are polluting just because of food waste? See, if you calculate it back, there's an input cost, there's a manpower cost which goes into it, and especially we're using water, we're using pesticides to contaminate soil, and the food which is coming out is not consumed, it's been wasted, and after wasting it, it is producing gases. Again, we are trying to change the climate or pollute the air. So basically it's a chain which we need to address. The problem is the starting point, therefore we stop the end consequences. So it's important for all of us to think about how we can mitigate this. So this slide, actually I just brought it out to say that the food we waste or lose can feed up to 1.26 billion hungry people every year. Every year, the food right now which we are wasting can feed around some 1.26 billion people. It's not that, my friend said, it's not that food is not available. Food is there, but only thing is it's not mapped to the right place. It's not been it's not been value chained in the right way how it can go. So that is the reason there is a gap in hunger, which we need to think about it. So I leave this evening with a commitment. Since all my friends who are here, we want to hear from you. What is that one thing you are gonna do on this World Food Day? How are we gonna mitigate this challenge? I would request every single individual to type your personal commitment which you want to take it up today. Personal commitment. How you want to mitigate, stop food waste. Professional commitment or your personal commitment. And I want a timeline, how you are gonna streamline for your family. For example, if you ask me and my family members, we never waste food. We eat. If there is a food left over, we go out, find people who are in need of food, and we try to give them the food. So I would encourage everyone right now to type your commitment in the chat so that we will make a bonding today. Let's come together and make a bonding today and take a step. We'll follow it up. We'll try to work together so that the change will start from this evening. I open the floor for you for questions and for the chat. I'm waiting for the chat to come up. Taiwo, I'm done with this. Let's start for the discussions, and I would be very happy if people are open to give their commitments in the chat.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Carter. That was a very great presentation. It really touched the soul of the topic. I and my household are already making a commitment now that we'll never waste food, and whatever is surplus, whatever we cannot consume, we are going to take to the orphanages or take to the food, take to the food, to the refugee, to the, where it is needed, give it to those people where it will be needed. And the timeline starts from this evening. So thank you very much for such a presentation. I expect every other people to make their own commitment as regards food wastage. We can discover that the wastage of food is causing a lot of problem in the world. It's causing a lot of problem. So thank you very much, Doctor. And so the floor is open now for question and answer. Ambassador Adigun.
Yeah, before we start, thank you so much, Dr. Shawa, for that wonderful presentation. It's really a challenge for us as an individual to rekindle our commitment to end food wastage. Because from the data that was shared by Professor Olaniyi, it shows that our problem is not the availability of food. Our problem is the management of the food value chain, from the farm to the end users, and from the end users to the way the end users are even managing the food. Because one of the principles I have in my family is my son knows that at every time he does not finish his lunch, dinner, or breakfast, he must put it inside the fridge for him to come and consume it later. Because from the beginning, I make them to realize that millions of people does not have a food to eat at all. Not because the food is not there, but when my son is given a bowl of rice, he ate 3 spoons out of a big bowl and throw the remaining inside the dustbin. It doesn't make sense. Thank you so much for that product presentation. I challenge everyone today. It's not just about us listening to this lecture. It's not just about us seeing this data, physical data, and data does not lie. Professor Olaniyi was sharing critical data as of today. Millions and billions of food being wasted, millions and billions of food, of people going hungry. It's a reality, and it's only myself and you that can solve this problem. We cannot solve this problem by sitting down and just listening to this. We can solve this problem by taking a proactive action, starting from our individual house. For me, every food that is not eaten in the house is either it goes back to the fridge for us to recycle it in another food, or we give it to somebody. We don't have time again. We all need to take action. Thank you so much, Mr. Taiwo, for this opportunity, for bringing this expository program to all of us to challenge our thought process, not only to just see it as an opportunity that we have food, but see the gap that is existing, that millions of people are actually dying because of that food that I am wasting, because of the food that you are wasting. If we can all have this mindset, it's easy for us to bring a turnaround to food management. Thank you so much, everybody. Just for a few minutes, I would like everybody to put on their camera for us to take the webinar picture. Can we do that now, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay, can everybody put on their camera, sir? Oh, sorry, we need to acknowledge the presence of the chairperson of Hope Ambassador in person of Madam Mande Olowu. Thank you so much, Madam, for putting this together for us. We are very grateful for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Let everybody put on their camera, please. Everybody should put on their camera, please. Luca, Paveni, I've not seen your camera. Pakisha, Sanin, your camera on. Ramya, Banduveli, your camera on. Please let everybody put on their camera for us to take this group picture. It's our commitment that we don't just attend this program, but we are committed to take action after today that we are going to commit to end food wastage. Please, your picture will not deny you tomorrow, okay? Please, I'm waiting for other people to put on their camera, please. Please let other people put on their camera, please. We are waiting for you. We can give 5 seconds to our women that want to go and do their makeup. Please put on your makeup and let's get this camera on, sir. Ma.
suppose we can also, if we have people that would like to ask questions, you're free to put your question in the chat box, and you can raise your hand so
Yes.
that we acknowledge you.
Because we are waiting for everybody to put on their camera, please. It's very, very important, please. It's for the documentation for this program to acknowledge that at least we know we have the information of the reality of food, of hunger. We have the reality of the information that has to do with number of people that are losing their life, and we are committing that we are going to take action after this section. Please, we appreciate everybody to do this, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, over to you, sir.
Yeah, no, I think while we are, taking the pictures, we can as well take the questions that we have already online. I have some questions online. I can start reading them out so that we start attending to them as we snap this picture. So I know some of these questions have been handled already, in some of the presentation, but I will just, I will read them out. Just a moment. I will read them out. And so there's a question here that says how to reduce food wastage between farm and to table, more or less, set forth, but to table. Is there any chance mango growing in 365 days? And the third one is there no end to the use of pesticide? Do I come again?
Yeah, I think I'll take that question. So
Okay.
my presentation was all about that, how we need to mitigate food wastage from farm to the table. But only thing is I spoke at a very basic level. We need to get into the depths of that particular challenge. There are a lot of companies which are trying to work it out, but no, it is, I say this word, it's not company, it's not government, or it is not an industry which needs to work. I say that the behavioral change of every individual is important. Every single person need to feel responsible for food. They need to feel responsible for food. Then the change will start. That is the biggest change which you can make. No, I'm very happy to see questions coming into the chat that me and my family will not waste food. That is the change which we are looking at. Automatically, what happens is the system gets organized. Then we can mitigate it. That's one. 365 days mango. I too am very happy to have, if at all it is there. But yeah, but yes. We have fruits coming from Thailand. Thailand has mangoes, a different type of mangoes. India has got, one of the best mangoes. But yes, we cannot call it, if it is there 365 days, we cannot call it as season food. So let's keep it. It's a season food which comes in heat. Let's keep it that, so that it gives us that excitement we wait for that summer to have that food. Yeah.
Okay.
So what was your last question, Taiwo?
Yeah, I said, is there no end to the use of pesticide?
Okay. So we need to understand one big concern is that though we say pesticide, it's an established industry right now. Okay, an industry which is catering economy to every government, an industry which is catering jobs, and an industry which is giving hope to farmer. So the more number of pesticides increased, at the same time, the more number of pests also increased. So it's going hand on hand. So the biggest problem is if you want to convert that change, right? So we need to come to a situation that we need to be ready to take the loss next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, the loss, if you want to convert into organic or non-GMO. Okay, GMO. See, so this is a big concern. So we need to bring the situation to the ground zero level so that we can try to change it in a different way. I'm happy that there are institutions which are already promoting organic fertilizers, which are actually helping, farms to soil to come to its natural positions. Okay. Hopefully someday we need to stop these pesticides so that, we have a good nutrient food for us to consume and for a future generation.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Doctor. I have another question here. It said, how can we, okay, sorry. How do you address food crisis in Africa, especially in Nigeria, that are faced with Boko Haram in the northeast Nigeria and banditry in northwest Nigeria? Prof, maybe you want to help us with that.
Well, it's not only about Nigeria. It's anywhere there's war and conflict and terrorism. You see, it's important that we look at the fundamentals, the root cause of the problem. Some countries are fighting because of their land, the region. There's fighting because of resources. Some are fighting because of cultural beliefs. Some are fighting because of religion, and all that. So the so-called terrorists and people that are able to strap what's it called, a bomb to themselves and blow themselves up. If you look at it, these are also poor youth, hopeless youth, people that are hopeless. And forget about the religious part. It's one part of the equation. But these are people, if you can strap yourself and be a terrorist and terrorize people and take pride in doing that, there's an element of, actually a very strong element of hopelessness, It might be as a result of poverty, no job, no good education. The government has frustrated the people. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. So it's not just about saying that, oh, these people, eradicate them or do something. You have to get to the root of the problem. So, and that's what I was saying the other time. It's not one size fits all. If there's conflict and it's driving people into hunger and driving people to malnutrition, look at the root cause of the problem. It's usually complex. It's not one solution. It's complex. And someone was saying on Friday that we are coming together to solve the world problem of hunger. Why not us come together to actually end war and conflict and see what will happen? And see what will happen to the number in terms of the number of people that are hungry, and see if it's not going to come down significantly. So these are the, this one of the complexity of hunger and lack of access to food. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have a question here. He said, in a country like India, what can be your measures and steps for reaching safe food to the plate or to the consumers? Any supporting program associated or impact funds or works to achieve this? Is there any supporting program associated or impact funds or works to achieve this? There's access to food, to safe food.
Okay, I'll take this question. There are a lot of institutions which are working around food. Okay, if not, I would say this, like, working towards farmer-centric institutions working. You name any international organization, somewhere or the other, they're connected towards food because they feel it's more important. World Bank, FAO, okay, you name any institution. Food is a cause, therefore people respect that and institutions work towards that. Governments work towards food, towards farmer. Okay, research institutions, they work towards farmer. Okay, universities, they develop content towards farmers. It's not that there is nothing for farmer or food. It is already available. Every year we see billions of dollars which are spent on the new mechanisms of food growing, or how to mitigate challenges, how to increase the soil efficiency, or how to reduce the pesticides, or how we can change the climate. Everything farmer centric, food centric. So there are a lot of opportunities which are available. You can search in Google. A lot of European countries, and they spend a lot of money. US based institutions, they spend a lot of money in India. They have projects. You can bid for projects. You can come up with researches, or if at all you have some kind of a research story, you can directly apply for CSR institutions and tell them that I have a problem, I found some kind of solution, and this is how I'm going to solve it if you can fund it. And definitely institutions would be coming forward to help you out. If not, take it to the last scenario. You can reach out to us. Tavio is there, I'm here, and the panel is here. We are looking at how we can build this, how we can bring in some kind of consortiums to work towards a farming community, to give a good quality food for the community. So I think we are there open. You can discuss us with us offline. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Yeah, if we have people with questions, you can just show by raising your hand, and then we can call you to take your question. But meanwhile, I think I still have some online questions here. Yeah, somebody here said, I am an agricultural development missionary in South Sudan, and the resources here are so abundant, but so poorly stewarded. I wonder why people come and focus on subsistence or sustainability when the opportunity for something much greater than that is pertinent to development, something akin to expendability. Okay, and the second one is, I think is a comment. The second one is, I'm wondering if there is sufficient focus on climate resilience, which I will term best management practices, instead of being sidetracked to the controversial and what I could call little bang for the buck issues of CO2 sequestering or carbon footprint food miles or carbon credits, which when regulated into policy result in higher costs for producers and consumers both. It looks very long-winded question. Doctor, did you get the question?
So if not, I understood it like, what about climate resilient agriculture, which they're speaking about? I think so. I think the first question was regarding Africa. If someone can handle it, I will handle the second question. So second question is, there are institutions which are working a big time on climate resilience agriculture. It's not just on climate resilience agriculture, even livestock, climate resilient livestock, they're working on it. I personally did almost 4 projects on climate resilience. Okay, I piloted from the scratch. In one particular situation, the crop was dying. There was one particular crop which was actually dying. So government and a couple of other international institutions, they wanted to know how can we resolve this issue and how can we come up with some kind of climate resilience agriculture. So what we did was we tried to work on it. We tried to educate farmers. Farmers had their own story to tell. So I identified the gaps, basically where all the gaps are there. So it was more of like market driven. This year, if one commodity has a better price, next year, everybody goes for the same commodity, which happens, which normally what happens is automatically the market price crashes. So based on those kind of bad experiences, farmers stopped cultivating the product. So when we reintroduced the product, gave them good practices, try to introduce some kind of micronutrients rather than pesticides. We use some kind of pheromone traps to trap, worms, And when we made it overall, then what we identified was places where women were involved in agriculture, women who bossed or who took the lead in agriculture, they had 17% more of income than others. So if we look at it, there's nothing called loss. In fact, only thing is the way how we are working towards that particular product makes them, if we can make aware of them, it will yield them good way. Otherwise, there are institutions, there are good researches which are come up. Now we do have climate smart, we call it as climate smart agriculture. We call it is there's technology which gives accurate information about your climate, where you can take precautions. So it is doable and people are piloting that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our time is fast running out. So, but we just take like 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll round it up for today. We could do, like we said before, we could actually have a panel discussion on some of these questions and answer by next month. We could look for a good time next month so that we can take more questions and discuss this more in detail, since we have all the presentation already. So this question here is, how can we control food adulteration?
How can we control food adulteration? You see, food adulteration, on one hand, is actually driven by food price. So you have a commodity that is very expensive. Of course, people want something that is cheaper. They want the commodity that is cheaper. For example, if you have oil, if you have some powder, some what's it called, spice and all that, you see people adulterate so much. Even you see with palm oil, there's so many, but everything comes down to people want affordable food products. And that's the opportunity in there that people like honey. Honey is coming from China, highly adulterated. I hope we don't have any Chinese in the chat, in the group. But there are products coming from, but there are technologies also in place to check this, because it's food fraud is a big issue. It's a big issue, and it's not as a result of the food itself availability, because they're trying to make food available because it's cheap. A lot of people want to buy more. But in terms of food safety, remember that food that can save us can also kill us. So as much as we are talking about food security, food availability, the food must be safe. The integrity of that food in terms of safety must be there. So it's a big problem. There are technologies to detect adulteration. Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. And that's why at times the best advice is to go to reputable store, food outlets, to buy your commodities if you are not sure of what you are getting. Even bread, anything can be, they can fortify, they can add something just to beef it up. And at times the price will not even come down. It's just for them, it's out of greed for them to actually maximize profit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That was well said. Yeah, in fact, greed is something which normally the cause of adulteration. So I think again it comes to behavioral change of individual. Okay, we need to be responsible for the citizen community. If I am a parent, and how can I give an adulterated bread to my children, but whereas I would sell it to some other children, which needs a behavioral change, understanding about it. Yeah, which is basically greed needs to be changed. Thank you.
Open that door.
Okay, thank you. Now, the other question here is, what are the funding opportunities in food processing sector? Funding opportunities in food processing sector.
I must tell you, when we're talking about food food loss and waste reduction. Agro-processing is actually has been identified as one of the main major tools to actually reduce food waste. Because it's because we have highly perishable commodities, especially horticultural crops, very perishable. So one way to make them available and accessible is actually to dehydrate them, to turn them into, stabilize them, low moisture content, so that they can last long, long shelf life and all that. And even in South Africa, there's a master plan, agro-processing master plan, that the government now, pumping money into, and all countries now, they have this kind of plan in place. So when it comes to where can you get money, funding, there are funding agencies, the government also, depending on where you're coming from. One thing we realize is that we actually haven't explored or exploit the potential of agro-processing sector in terms of not only for food security, but for economic growth in terms of job creation. It's so powerful that if we look into agro-processing, and we'll actually expand, we can triple our the scale of the agricultural sector if we look into value addition, agro-processing and product transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I think finally, this is my own question. And my question is this. Now, from the presentation, we learned that food production is not the problem. We have abundance of production. But the problem is that there still exists a deficit sector. You understand? There is this sector that does not, availability of food to them is really very tight. Whereas we have a lot of rich people in the world, you understand? And they have surplus of fund, surplus of money, while at the other end, there are a lot of people who are poor. Even the food is available, they can't afford it. So how do we bridge this gap between the surplus people and the deficit sector? What can we do to bridge this gap? Bridging the gap from the ones that are well-fed and the ones that are hungry.
Let me take that question, I will just, and I will allow Dr. Shyam also. I think one of the important, there are so many ways, like I said, solving the world hunger problem is not something that you say one thing you will do and then you solve it. In fact, if you go about throwing money around, you're not, let's say Elon Musk say, let's put in some millions or billions, you're not going to solve the problem. In fact, some say that the world hunger problem can never be solved. And it depends on, it's possible. I always tell my students, when they present and they exaggerate that, okay, we are reducing post-harvest losses and all that, and we'll save the world. The tone they try to say is that they are saving the world. You are not saving the world. In fact, you cannot save the world. Some problems will be with us for a long period of time, as long as other problems, accessory problems are still there, like poverty. You cannot be talking about ending hunger if you haven't ended poverty. And that's why poverty is number one in the Sustainable Development Goal, poverty, because people need money to buy food, isn't it? So one of the key areas that we should look into is actually policy. If we look at abundance on one side and lack of access on the other side, you will see that there's something missing. The people that have it in abundance, they will rather throw the food away because there are no incentives for them to give the food, especially the big corporates, your food outlets. They can be sued if you give food to someone and that person dies. They can be sued. They can actually be shut down. So there are no incentives. We don't have what we call the hunger alleviation system incorporated into our food system. You have the production system, you have the post-harvest system, the consumer and marketing system, but we don't have this a system that is based on food reallocation. They will look at the best by dates, they throw the food away, even though the food is still good.
Yeah.
So the deficit here is about a policy, policy change. Like Dr. Shia also said, behavior. I tell you, the most difficult thing you can change in a man is their mindset, is their behavior. So that's why we need to raise this awareness over and over again and let people understand why they have to not waste food. If you let them know that each time you throw food into the bin, you actually taking food from the hunger. So each plate you throw away, it's one person that is going hungry because that person could have been fed with that food you are throwing away. So behavioral change, and we must make this very personal. If you are committed, I like the fact that Dr. Shian was saying, what is your commitment? Because it's not, otherwise we'll keep talking about this over and over and over. If people as individuals actually don't make a decision to change, and to see that the little you are doing can contribute to the bigger picture, addressing the bigger problem. Thank you.
Okay, doctor, you want to add something?
He well said, exactly well said that how it needs to be done. The policies matters a big time, food policies matters. You can't come up with food, stored food, or you cannot have for yourself more. So I think that controlling that system would bring, to an extent that food is available, okay, in terms. So, and second thing is the behavioral change, which he again rightly portrayed, that people should not be greed. Otherwise, just like manna, you keep at home, next day morning it's worms. So I think it's the same thing with food here as well. You can't store it for quite some time, but rather than storing, just make it available for people who are in need, which will at least will contribute to the community. So well said, Fawa, that was really good. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. It's been a very, very interesting 1.5 hours. Somebody said that the best social media is not Facebook, it's not Instagram, it's not WhatsApp, but it is food. Food is what brings people together. In communities all around the world, food is the best social media you can think of. So on this note, I will call on Mandy to come in and give us a presentation.
Thank you, everybody. Everyone who joined us today. It's so good to know that we're all concerned about the food crisis in our world. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Professor Olani Fawale. Thank you. The last year teaching still resonates in our hearts. Thank you for always answering us when we call on you. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you, Dr. Shyam Kumar Kata. Thank you for the powerful presentation. You really touched on all areas of concern. How can we even begin to discuss food crisis when we produce so much and yet over 7 million die of hunger yearly? Just as Professor said, he said it's a very complex situation, and we have made a commitment today that we must stop food wastage. And my household, and we made a commitment to stop food wastage. The entire mankind must come together and make an effort to eradicate poverty. Outside of that, nothing would happen. We would not be able to stop hunger. So I thank everyone that has graced our platform today. And I pray that we would ensure to begin to run and take action with what we have discussed today. That is the only way. To address the issue of poverty, we must stop food wastage. So thank you, everyone. God bless all of us. In fact, this week alone, I think I went to the fruit markets very close to me here, and I just found out that a mountain of the fruits that we produce is wasted. So it's such a pity that we don't even know how to preserve our food. So please, I expect that after this whole teaching today, that we'll be able to run with what we have learned and stop wastage of food. And this begins from our home. So thank you once again, everybody that has graced our platform. God bless you.
Thank you so much, madam, for the opportunity. It's a great honor to have you around, and it's a great pleasure that this program came up. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Hope Ambassador, and all the facilitators. We appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think before we close, I would like to acknowledge Danzan is here. I think he's also in the mission of a different mission towards working towards food and peace, right? Danzan, you're there? You would like to give something? I'll unmute him 1 second. Dan, you would like to speak something?
Did I hear my name?
Yeah.
Whose name? Who are you talking to?
To you only, Dan.
Okay, what was the question again?
No, I just asked you would like to greet something before close.
Well, if I'd like to what?
Do you want
I
to
didn't catch
greet
one
because
You want
you
to
are
say
on the same
something
mission?
before we close?
Yeah.
I still didn't hear that word. What is that word again?
Do you want to say something before we close?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been looking at this situation and doing research on it, and I guess I really want to focus people on, the cancer is more strongly correlated to things like your hormones being off balance.
You there, Dan?
Your age, your diet, in terms of eating the wrong work of the Fraser Institute in and what they've written on that it's misconceptions on the cause of cancer. You'll find that those are the main things, and it's not pesticides or industrial chemicals that is the major contributor to cancer, as many people in the media seem to promote. And in fact, Dr. Ames did research on this. He's the one that developed the testing for cancer in Berkeley many years ago. And his information, his writing and his research actually concluded that the naturally occurring chemicals inside of plants that they use for defense against insects and stuff cause cancer at the same rates as pesticides and industrial chemicals. And so we kind of have to look at this in a very balanced way when we think about the risks out there in the environment. People need to also research what's in the plants naturally. Different plants carry a tremendous amount of chemicals in them that when we test them at the same ways that we test for the pesticides and industrial chemicals, we're finding similar cancer rates. So I think that should really skew us in a different direction in terms of our attention to the issue of cancer and what's causing cancer. Maybe we should focus more on the things we can control, like obesity and exercise. Those are the things that are really going to get us ahead in getting control of cancer, making sure we're managing our hormone levels in our body, particularly for women. Hormone levels are a big issue in causing cancer. So anyway, that's just a 2 cents, I would throw out there. And if you're going to develop a new methodology for controlling insects, I think you test it on a small scale, see if it works, because I've seen too many failures, people pushing organic methods and their whole crop fails. Down in Peru, when I was there in different places, the whole crop was failing oftentimes because they're trying to grow organic, but they didn't know how. And people need to work up to that if they want to grow organic produce. Try it on a small scale, keep your pesticides going on the large scale until you get good at it, and then you can switch it around. That's my advice to producers out there. And anyway, those are just a few little things that I would say as a long-term agricultural advisor, and having grown up on a farm where we used pesticides and different things on the farm. So anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. I think the point taken, I think it's well portrayed. We would like to discuss a little more deep on that later with you, so that we can have some other webinar focusing that how can we reduce cancer while using agriculture as one of the tool. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, over to you, Taiwo. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mandy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I still want to thank some of the people that graced our platform today. Ambassador Digu, thank you so much for your time. Ambassador Marina, God bless you. Ambassador Stanley Ayuba, thank you for coming. Ambassador Cynthia, thank you too for coming. Truly appreciate your presence. Ambassador Balabako, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. God bless you. God bless all of you. Ambassador Favor.
Mandy, you need to thank
Thank
special
you.
thank to the students of IIPMB, Institute of Indian.
And special thanks to the
Plant
students of
Management.
APMB. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. We truly appreciate your presence. And everyone that couldn't come, that sent in a message. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. We truly, truly appreciate it. And thank you, Taiwo, for organizing such a good program. Thank you once again to Professor Lani Ifawole and Dr. Shiam Kumar Kata. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We've learned a lot from the both of you. God bless you. So everyone, have a perfect evening. For those of us that still have our evenings, and for our Indian friends, have a good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. We send out the invitation for next month in November. Let's keep talking about this thing. I think by talking about it, we'll be able to get some solution. We know it's not one, it is not just one solution cannot fit all. But the more we talk about this, the more we'll be able to, bring out solutions. So thank you very much for your time. And I wish you a wonderful week ahead. Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.